From baseball to biceps. Listen because it will be good.
The voice of choice is on the air. From baseball to biceps, from the Bucks County Courier-Times, Randy Miller is with us.
This will be the Phillies' biggest test. I think it may be the two best teams in baseball.
The play-by-play voice of the Philadelphia 76ers, Mark Zumoff.
I believe Drew Holiday will certainly average in double figures.
Thanks again, Mark.
Thanks, guys, and good luck.
Merrill Reese joining from baseball to biceps.
Happy to be with you. I believe, Bruce, that it's a road that will eventually lead to a Super Bowl champion.
Dan Baker.
Wow, thank you for that introduction. My goodness, Joe Conklin's going to have some competition there.
Scott Palmer, the Director of Public Affairs for the Phillies.
Yeah, hey, Bruce, how are you? It's a great time to be a Phillies fan right now.
From OneWrestling.com, Mr. Bill Apter.
Listen, I like the entrance music. I was strutting my way into the phone here.
Your voice of choice, Bruce Wirt.
Big guy, there's people, we gotta divert here because there's just people that you don't make wait. And one of those people right now on the line to help us talk some Eagles in the middle of that Phillies discussion is the king of broadcasters in Philadelphia, Mr. Merrill Reese. And Merrill, how are you on this fine Thursday evening?
I am well, Bruce.
Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, Merrill, on the heels of Monday night's game against the Washington Redskins, is that quite possibly, in your opinion, you've seen a lot of football over the years, is that the best game that you've ever seen played by an Eagles quarterback?
I'll go beyond that, Bruce. I will tell you that that's the best game I've ever seen played by a quarterback, ever.
That was unbelievable. Just the athleticism combined with that arm, it's almost like, Merrill, he flicks his wrist and the ball travels 60 yards.
It's amazing. I have never seen a delivery like that ever. And I always thought when he was in Atlanta that he had a gorgeous arm, that flick of the wrist could put the ball any place. But he lacked the pinpoint accuracy. He would have streaks where he looked like the greatest passer in the world, and then there were streaks where the guy in the upper deck or in the third row was as close to being on target with the ball as the receiver he was originally aiming for. And what the Eagles did with Marty Morningwig and James Urban, the quarterback coach, is they did not change his delivery. They did not change the way he gets rid of that football, but they changed what they call his platform. They changed his stance. They changed his posture, and they tightened up a couple of the mechanics, and they have helped him become a great passer, an accurate passer. And Michael is the first to admit this. And as Andy Reid said, the quarterback has to be willing. He is a sponge. He soaks up any coaching you give him.
Merrill, is he the best quarterback in the league right now?
Today he is. I mean, if you asked me 2 weeks ago, I would tell you that I thought that in my lifetime, the best quarterback I've ever seen is Peyton Manning. I would have probably said Peyton Manning and Johnny Unitas. The way Peyton Manning goes to that line of scrimmage, the way he lines people up, the way he dissects defenses, I thought Peyton Manning even over any of the icons of the past, over Steve Young, over Joe Montana, over Dan Marino, over John Elway. I thought that Manning was the absolute best. And if you look at his body of work, I think he still is. But if you're talking about hot, if you're talking about a quarterback who right now is carrying his team and taking his team further than any other quarterback in the league at this point, and it's a narrow body of work, but at this point, it is Michael Vick.
He definitely looks very good out there. And Merrill, on the heels of Donovan McNabb's extension, I mean, in my opinion, this city would revolt if Michael Vick didn't come back next year. I mean, the rest of this season still has to play out. A lot of things could happen. But in your opinion, do you think that the Eagles will step up and offer Michael Vick an extension before the season's over?
Oh, I can answer that. I think they will.
Okay.
I cannot imagine that they're going to allow this thing to continue because once you get into free agency, and I know that I've spoken with Michael, I know that it's his preference to stay here. But you've also read reports about the financial hole that Michael is in because of the difficulties that he created. And he's got to be a businessman. He's got to do what is best for him and his family long range. He's got to go with the best offer he can get. Now, if it's close, if the offers are relatively close, and you're talking about, it sounds funny when you're saying close, and they're only a few $1 million apart. But if they're a few $1 million apart, I think he wants to stay here, and I think he will stay here. But if somebody makes him an offer that is $10, $15, $20 million more, well, then what choice does he have? But I think the Eagles are going to step up and make every effort they possibly can to sign him.
I think for public relations sense, that would definitely be in the best interest of the team. I think, the Phillies have taken a lot of the steam out of the Eagles, especially in the last 3 years. And this has the ability to kind of vault the Eagles back to the forefront in the hearts of Philadelphia, don't you think?
Well, of course it does. It has really changed this entire season. It's all everybody talks about right now. I'm sitting here. I did my show tonight, Bruce, and I'm sitting home and I'm relaxing and I'm watching the Dolphins and the Chicago Bears. And you just realize how important it is to have an exceptional quarterback. When you look at what Miami, an otherwise good team, is going through right now, and they're playing with Tyler Thigpen, who looks absolutely lost.
Right.
I mean, it's absolutely pathetic what he's doing out there right now. He's not giving them a chance to win. They're down to trailing the Bears 16-0. And I don't think Jay Cutler is the greatest thing in the world either. But next to Tyler Thigpen, I mean, Tyler Thigpen looks like Pigpen from Peanuts. I mean, that's how bad he looks. He looks absolutely awful. And when you look at him, Michael Vick, I think Kevin Cobb's a very good quarterback. I think Kevin Cobb can be someplace, and as he develops, be a front-line, first-rate starting quarterback. But when you look at Michael Vick, you're talking about somebody who is so physically gifted, who has more ability than any quarterback. He probably has more physical ability than any quarterback who's ever lived, because there's never been a quarterback with his speed. I mean, you take Randall Cunningham, you take Steve Young, you take any of the great running quarterbacks, they weren't as fast as Michael Vick. And you take his arm strength. Cunningham had a great arm, as you remember, but he had that long, looping delivery.
Right. Michael
Vick is, as you described it, you said a flick of the wrist. That's all it is, and that ball's a laser.
And Merrill, he looks like he's jogging and he's still beating people. He's still zooming by people, not even at full speed. It's amazing to watch him play.
He's something. I couldn't agree more.
When you were on this show back right before the season, you said the defense would surprise people. I was talking about the offense, and you said it's going to be the defense. And this defense, as the weeks have gone by, really is coming into its own. The cornerbacks are playing well, and I really feel like this defense is solidified going into the second half of the season.
I was doing my show with Harry tonight, with Harry Gamble, and a lot of people remember Harry as being at one point the general manager, then the president of the Eagles. But before that, Harry was on Dick Vermeil's coaching staff, and he was the head coach at the University of Pennsylvania. And before that, he was the head coach at Lafayette. So he has that great background of being with a lot of players over the years and a lot of football, and he can evaluate it. His son, Tom Gamble, is the director of pro personnel of the San Francisco 49ers. And Harry watches everything, and he gets to see tape. And Harry said, you know who is playing amazingly well? Ernie Sims. He said he is flying around. He is making plays. He said, I can't believe a team like Detroit got rid of him. He said, how can you get rid of a player who's that much of a playmaker? He's making a difference. You watch him as the season comes on. He is really making plays. But then you imagine and here's the other thing, Bruce. We've heard people criticize the Eagles' personnel choices over the years. This team has done so well in acquiring depth, because in this day and age of salary caps, it's tough to have depth throughout your roster. But they have a guy like Dimitri Patterson, who's a free agent, who comes in when Hobbs is down, and he's playing tremendously.
Better than Hobbs.
How about Antonio Dixon?
Yep.
He's playing better than Broderick Bunkley.
Right.
I mean, it's amazing. It is really amazing the way he's playing. So I think it's great. I think it's really great. And you talk about they made a move in the off season. They signed Michael Bell from New Orleans. They thought he would work out. He didn't. But instead of being stubborn and saying, well, let's keep going with him, they found a chance to unload him to the Cleveland Browns, and they got Jerome Harrison, who can play.
Jerome Harrison ran for over 100 yards last week. He had a game last year where he ran for 284 yards?
Something like that, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously very talented kid, and he looks good, and a definite change of pace from Mike Bell with his, 2 yards a carry. It seemed like every time.
In a cloud of dust.
Yeah. It seemed like every time he touched the ball, it was 2 yards, and that was it. Never more, never less.
Yeah, well, sometimes it was 1. Hey, sometimes, occasionally, he went backwards.
Merrill, what do we look for this week with Eagles-Giants on Sunday night? What should we look for with the Giants team?
They're good, and they can beat you with their front four on defense. They don't have to blitz. They're the number 1 ranked defensive team in the National Football League, and anybody who thinks this is going to be a cakewalk because of what they saw in Washington, I think is mistaken. I think it's going to be a tough game, and they're going to give Michael Vick all the heat they possibly can. I think the Eagles have to stop their running game, and because Ahmad Bradshaw is good, and Brandon Jacobs is a heck of a change of pace back, so they're tough. But what you don't want is to allow the Giants to dominate at the line of scrimmage, which they are capable of doing. The thing that I think is in the Eagles' favor is the fact that the Giants' offensive line is very, very much a shadow of itself. They've had injury after injury after injury, and I don't even know about Sean Andrews right now. He missed practice today for the second straight day.
Back issues again, right?
They're a battered offensive line, and that may slow them down. But you don't want to let the Giants run downhill because they can control the ball for long periods of time. But if you can shut down their running game and make them pass, even their passing core without Stephen Smith is somewhat depleted. And then they lost Ramses Barden last week, and he could be a threat. So Hakeem Nicks is still pretty dangerous. And I don't think Eli Manning is what you would call a spectacular quarterback, but he's a smart quarterback, and he has won a Super Bowl. So he's a guy to contend with. So it's going to be a war. It's going to be a great battle, but I feel relatively good about it.
Hey, I hate to sound like our friend Howard Eskin, but it's also scary to think that the Eagles are coming off the high of highs and the Giants are coming off the low of lows, and those emotions might play into that game.
Sometimes that happens. It's tough week in and week out to stay sky high, especially this team is on a 4-game stretch over 17 days. It's
going to be a tough one. Merrill, I want to thank you for spending some time with us. I know you had your show tonight, so it's extended duty for the GM, Merrill Reese. But thanks for spending some time on Baseball to Biceps.
Okay, my pleasure, Bruce. Keep doing the great job.
Thank you, and have a good night.
Bye-bye.
That is the legendary voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese.
Tired of seeing your business pay high prices for poor telecommunication service? Do you wait on hold, attempting to fix a problem only to have a poorly trained person give you the runaround? If so, it's time to call NetCarrier. They'll provide you with a cost-effective solution to meet your needs. Since 1996, NetCarrier has been providing businesses in the Delaware Valley telecommunication solutions that save them time and money. Call 888-444-4054 and mention WBCB. You can't afford to wait any longer.